Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Level Up Your Yard webinar. We will get started in just a minute or two to allow some more folks to get on and make sure that all of our live streams are running smoothly. Today's webinar will be recorded and you will get a copy if you are registered through Zoom. If not, if you're joining on Facebook Live, the video will be available for playback once we're done here today as well. So if you want to get started in the chat, feel free to let us know where you're joining from today. I myself am at our Plymouth office at the Plymouth Arts and Recreation Complex. So I want to see where out in the Rouge River watershed everyone is joining from. So we got Linda in Dearborn, Serena in Farmington Hills, Riley in Plymouth, Monica in Farmington. Thank you all so much for joining. Christy Ann in Beverly Hills, Amy in Detroit. I hope everyone's enjoying the wonderful sunshine we have today. This lovely spring Friday. Gary joining in Canton. Awesome. We got folks all across the watershed today. This is fantastic. Sarah in Rochester. All right, let's see. It is 12:01. So before we get started today, just a quick little introduction to all of our Zoom things at the bottom if you're joining on there. We do have a Q&A feature at any point in time during the presentation. Feel free to put any of your questions in there, and we will have a Q&A portion at the end, and we can kind of go over all of those in detail. You can also use the chat, as many folks are already doing, which is wonderful. Feel free to chit chat in there kind of as we're going through things. You can put questions in there. I have my coworker Jaclyn watching the chat on Zoom and Facebook Live. So definitely feel free to put those in at any time. If you're joining on Facebook, feel free to leave a message, just kind of comments, questions in there as well, and we'll try to get to everybody's questions. We do also have closed captions enabled, whether you have hearing problems or, are trying to multitask and you want to just be reading it, those are also enabled for you as well. And to start off, an introduction, my name is Jaclyn Hankulo. I'm one of the restoration coordinators at Friends of the Rouge, and I am gonna be sharing with you all today about how to level up your yard. So give me just a moment so I can pull that up. And Jaclyn, you can feel free to turn on your camera and give the people a little wave if you like, show them your beautiful face. So yes, we have the Jackie cruise today. All right, so thank you all again for joining our webinar. We are going to learn how to level up your yard for the Rouge River. Just a moment, I have to do just a few edits for myself. I have my captions on, but they're blocking my screen. right, so let's get started. So again, my name is Jaclyn. I use she, her pronouns. My email is there on the screen, as well as at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to me. We have lots of different programs and things like that, or if you just need questions answered or need additional resources, definitely please feel free to reach out. Again, I work at Friends of the Rouge. I am one of our restoration coordinators. I am a self-described nature lover and gamer. So the picture on the left is myself in my Animal Crossing, admiring my river on my island. And the photo to the right is my nice professional photo. So let's get started with the basics. So water is life. We all need water to live. And luckily on this pale blue dot, we have lots of water. And fortunately for us that live in Michigan, we have the wonderful Great Lakes that hold up to 20% of the world's fresh water, which is such a great asset, not only for our economy and recreation, but just living as humans. Nearly 1/10 of the US population lives in the Great Lakes Basin. That's aside the fact of all of our neighbors in Canada that also use the Great Lakes as well. More than 35 million people rely on the Great Lakes for drinking water, jobs, way of life, anything that you could think of. Michigan kind of revolves around our wonderful Great Lakes. And of course, wherever you are, you live in a watershed. So, since we do all live in a watershed, some of those watersheds are very different. In the Rouge River watershed, we have some unique urban problems that we'll get into. But one of the big ones is really with stormwater, just rain falling from the sky. So since we do have less developed green spaces and more hard surfaces like roofs, buildings, parking lots, driveways, you name it, anything but grass or a garden, it's not soaking in that rain when it falls. So instead, it's running across those hard surfaces and into our storm drain. And we are also experiencing more frequent heavy storms due to climate change. I don't know if you've noticed the last couple of years, we've had a number of major flooding events, notably in 2021, some major flooding in Dearborn and Detroit, our downriver areas in the Rouge. Even last year, Canton had a major flooding event there as well. So because we have aging infrastructure and the infrastructure wasn't really built for these large storms, we see more flooding, backups, and a lot of other major issues that not only affect the Rouge, but all of us that live in it as well. So one of the major sources of pollution for most urban rivers, and especially in the Rouge River, is what we call non-point source pollution. So that means it's not coming from one direct source, like maybe it used to before the Clean Water Act, if a factory was just kind of discharging that dirty water or any other pollutants directly into the river. Nowadays, it's coming from multiple sources. So every individual that lives in the watershed, what we do on the lawn, everything that we put on there can end up in the river. So whatever is on your yard, your driveway, can end up in the Rouge River and all of our fun little critters' homes, like our little frog, fish, or ducks. The photos on the right, the top one shows major flooding on a Detroit street. They've had major sewer backups, just storm drains that are clogged, which has caused these problems. The one in the middle shows Bill Craig, little tiny on the left side there, next to a large CSO outfall. And that outfall has a grate on it that kind of is also clogged with a lot of trash and other debris. And the photo at the bottom shows a section of the Rouge River near a log jam with lots of trash kind of collected there as well, some floating bottles, styrofoam, lots of plastic. So getting more into your Rouge River, the Rouge River is the most urban river in Michigan. We have a lot of hard surfaces, and again, the larger storm events have made flooding more frequent. We have 40 uncontrolled CSOs in the Rouge currently. So the CSO is a combined sewer outfall or overflow. So that means in cities that are typically older in age, a lot of the city of Detroit, some of our older suburbs in Dearborn and Redford still have some CSOs. So in most other communities, there is separated sewers, which means the water that's coming from your homes, your toilets, showers, dishwasher, sinks, are going separate from the stormwater that's on the street. But in communities with CSOs, all of that water is going into the same pipe off to the wastewater treatment plant. So when we have large storm events, all that water running off of our yards, driveways, parking lots, into those storm drains, and all the water coming from inside our homes and businesses can really fill that pipe pretty quickly to capacity. And again, since these are typically older communities, they built this infrastructure really long ago, so they were not anticipating on all this water that we were going to have to manage. So the Rouge River watershed is also home to 1.35 million people. So imagine what we all could do if we all did our own little part. And you guys are already on the right track by joining us here today and learning about some of the things that you can do. So in this large wheel here, we have a variety of different colors. This was just released just a couple days ago. It is our Rouge River report card. So as you can see, the Rouge River got a D+ overall, which isn't necessarily terrible. Like, it has definitely come a long way since, factories dumping oil and other pollutants into the river. But it really shows that we still have a long way to go, both for the environment, just the Rouge River health in general, as well as all the communities that benefit from the Rouge. So one part of this wheel that I'd like to point out is the infrastructure piece, which we have been graded an F for in infrastructure. So a lot of what we'll be talking about today that we also got a poor grade in is flooding, sewer overflows, and impervious surfaces. So Jaclyn will put in the chat our Rouge River report card. If you'd like to read more about each one of those, as well as the Southeast Michigan watershed grades as a whole, that's including the Rouge, the Huron, the Clinton, and the Raisin, I believe. So definitely check that out, see how your fellow watersheds are doing, and learn how you can help improve these grades. So a little bit about Friends of the Rouge. This organization was created in 1986 by concerned community members who wanted to clean up the Rouge River. They saw a need and they were on top of it. There used to be a lot of dumping in the Rouge, full cars they were pulling out in 1986. So again, we've come a long way. We're still getting parts of cars, but no full cars. And again, stormwater is one of our major issues. So Friends of the Rouge mission is to restore, protect, and enhance the Rouge River watershed through stewardship, education, and collaboration. Friends of the Rouge focuses are on monitoring, restoration, education, trails, and advocacy. And we envision a future where a clean and vibrant Rouge River is the center of our communities. So our photos there on the right at the top, we have one of our monitoring interns showing us some invasive frog bit that they are pulling out of a lake. So we monitoring is on top of looking out for invasive species, as well as monitoring the river for chemicals, overall biological health. We actually have our spring bug hunt on Saturday, where we are going to have teams going out to a variety of different places on the Rouge, looking for our benthics, so the little critters that live in the river, and depending on what they find is a good indicator of the river's quality in those areas. That second photo there is two of our volunteers mulching around a rain garden. So we will be getting a little bit more into what a rain garden is as well. The third photo is a representation of our REP, our Rouge Education Project. Those are some students in the river doing some of that biological monitoring and getting out with their class and learning about the Rouge River. And our final photo there at the bottom is two paddlers passing each other on the Lower Rouge water trail as well. So it really comes down to nurturing nature with less undeveloped green spaces for insects, birds, and wildlife. They often seek refuge in our yards. And we encourage you today to be able to give them that healthy space to coexist. Humans are still a part of nature, even though we've built up all of these walls to separate ourselves from it. Everything we do still affects everything outside of our four walls. And a great quote from Rachel Carson is, in nature, nothing exists alone. And I very much agree with that sentiment. Rachel Carson is a marine biologist, conservationist, and the author of Silent Spring. I highly encourage you to read that book if you haven't. It's definitely one of the literatures that kind of helped push today's environmental movement. All right, so we will take a quick break real quick, and I am going to launch a survey for those of you that are joining on Zoom. Give me just one moment to pull that up. To stop sharing that real quick. So I have one quick survey for you all joining on Zoom. I want to know what lawn care habits you currently have. So I'm going to launch that. There's just a couple questions. You can pick multiple ones, I believe. We just kind of want to know what you're currently doing on your property for the river, for your plants. If the poll or survey isn't working that well for you, feel free to add it in the chat. Or if you're joining on Facebook Live, feel free to add that in the comments as well. Let us know what you're currently doing on your property. Awesome. I'm seeing a lot of great responses so far. Everyone looks like they're doing something, which is fantastic. Give it just another minute or two to allow everyone to answer. All right, it looks like we have about 90% of those participating answered. So let's share those results. So what lawn care habits do you currently have? So it looks like a lot of folks are picking up after their pets. That's wonderful. Making sure nearby storm drains are clean. Lots of folks mowing 3 inches or higher for their lawn. That's great. That means hopefully you're mowing less frequently. Fantastic. Either not using any fertilizer or using phosphorus-free fertilizer. That's great to see that folks are doing. Avoiding pesticides and insecticides and other lawn chemicals. Washing your car on your lawn or non-hard surface, or just going to the car wash. That's wonderful. Lots of folks leaving the leaves in the fall. That is fantastic. A lot of organizations, including the Xerces Society, have really pushed that initiative over the last couple of years. We have definitely helped support that. We'll kind of get into why leaving the leaves is so important for the environment. Using minimal salt in the winter, that is wonderful. Sounds like you guys are all following all of the posts that we are sharing as well. Folks having compost bins or piles, catching rainwater in a rain barrel or other rain catchment, having a native plant garden, and at least one person already has a native rain garden. That is fantastic. So I hope to share some other wonderful practices with you today about things that you can implement on your yard to help keep it healthy and clean for your family as well as the Rouge River. So we are going to start off with a level 1 yard. So this is what most people would think of when they think of a yard. We have a manicured grass lawn, which is Kentucky bluegrass, which, fun fact, is not actually from Kentucky. It is a non-native plant. So it is not a native plant. And the roots of Kentucky bluegrass are only a couple inches deep. So that's why most folks are watering their lawns frequently just to keep it from dying, because the roots of that lawn grass can't really reach down that far. Some other things with this level 1 yard, they may have a landscaping company coming out maybe weekly to mow and spray, killing those weeds, spraying the plants, bugs. They may have lawn sprinklers, or again, consistently watering that lawn grass, using a leaf blower or raking up and bagging all of your leaves in the fall. Using herbicides to kill weeds like dandelions. Again, spraying plants in your gardens with pesticides to keep the bugs off. Leaving pet waste in your yard if you have a pet. Using excess salt in the winter on sidewalks and driveways. We know that's really important, and we don't want anyone to slip, especially our mail person as they're coming up to the door. So we have a tendency to go a little overboard with the salt. That's totally understandable. They might have bright landscaping lights on all night. Downspouts are connected directly to the sewer system or directly into the a nearby waterway, or downspouts are emptying onto a sidewalk or driveway, making their way down to a nearby storm drain. So some things about this are not great. We're going to show you how to improve this yard. So some things to note on here, especially about the plants that you choose for your landscape. can't always trust everything that you get at, say, a Home Depot or a Lowe's. A lot of the times they are non-natives or native cultivars, or they can potentially even be invasive. Now is a really good time to be driving down your street. You might see a lot of beautiful white flowering trees. I hope that they're flowering dogwood, but unfortunately, a lot of them are the invasive Bradford pear or the calorie pear, I believe it's also called. Those are highly invasive. They can make its way into our native landscapes, our forests, like in Hines, I see a couple of them popping up there. Some other non-native invasive plants that we like to keep an eye out for is Dame's Rocket. It's a really pretty purple or white flower that has 4 petals. Unfortunately, sometimes that is also included in some wildflower mixes. So definitely be sure to check your seed packs before you put it in the ground. Some other ones include Tree of Heaven, garlic mustard. There's a lot of them out there that are either already established in nature, and other ones that we want to kind of keep an eye out for and make sure that they don't get to that point. If you want to learn more about invasive plants of our local area, I highly suggest finding your local SSMA. The Oakland County SSMA has a wonderful page with some profiles of different invasive plants and how to manage them. So definitely take a look on their website. We also have some information on our website at therouge.org. Spraying herbicides, pesticides, other chemicals can just like have a lot of damage. They're making their way into our grass, down into the soil, potentially into our water table, which isn't good, or they're running off again when it rains into our nearby storm drains, making their way into the river as well. So unfortunately, with herbicides and pesticides, they can't target like one specific plant or one specific insect. It would be wonderful if they could, but unfortunately, if it's going to be killing the aphids on your vegetables, they can also harm the beneficial insects that we want to keep around, like our beautiful monarch butterflies. Leaving pet waste in your yard, again, when it rains, the bacteria from that feces is making its way into the Rouge River watershed, out into the Detroit River and our Great Lakes. Same with fertilizers, those combined use up a lot of oxygen when there are algal blooms. So that fertilizer, it's really good for growing your lawn. But again, it can't just target your Kentucky bluegrass. It's going to be feeding that algae that's already there in the Great Lakes, making it so much worse. Those algal blooms use up all of the oxygen out of the water and make it really hard for fish and other things to live there comfortably. And they're also a major human health hazard too. So you may see around Lake Erie, when they've had major algal blooms, they need to close the beaches because it's just not safe for people to be there. Another thing on here, the bright lights on your landscape. We all want nice, safe homes. We want to be sure we can see out there. Having lights on all night is frowned upon, I guess, because there are a lot of insects, especially moths. Like, you know, the saying, like a moth to the flame. The moths are just going to be hanging out by that light all night. They're going to be using up all their energy. And it's not good for them. They have other things to be doing, like going and finding food elsewhere, as well as migratory birds. One thing we did rank fairly high on for our report card was bird diversity, which I think says a lot. We are in a pathway of a lot of migratory birds. They take that very seriously along the Rouge River as well. because it's a binational refuge for a lot of these birds. So to help improve their populations, keeping it dark at night is highly encouraged by the Audubon Society and the Detroit Bird Alliance. And again, like we kind of talked about before, this excess stormwater, all of it that's taking off of our lawns and driveways is that non-point source pollution that's making its way into the river. So let's see how we can try to improve that a bit. So we will move on to our next level lawn, our level 50 yard. So this resident is picking up their pet waste, which is great. No one wants to be stepping in your dog duty anyway, right? They're using phosphorus-free fertilizer on their lawn. So phosphorus is that major piece of fertilizer that goes into those algal blooms. Like that is the major reason why we want to keep fertilizers out of our rivers. It's mostly the phosphorus piece. So if you're looking for fertilizer, you really need it for your yard, look for one that's phosphorus free. Typically on the bag, there are 3 numbers. I believe it's nitrogen, phosphorus is right in the middle. So you want to look for a 0 right in the middle. And then I'm blanking on the last one. I think it might be potassium. So the things that your lawn needs to kind of survive and thrive. And then one habit that a lot of folks weighed in on is mowing your grass 3 inches or higher, or even switching to an electric mower. So, you know, getting rid of that gas mower helps keep some of that carbon out of the atmosphere, those greenhouse gases that are helping, you know, further climate change. I actually have an electric mower myself. It's really wonderful. Luckily, I have a pretty small yard. I'm able to do the front and the back, no problem on one charge. And I don't have to go all the way to the gas station and fill up a little gas can. And the reason we mow 3 inches or higher, when you cut it really, really short, that sends your Kentucky bluegrass kind of into like fight or flight. So they're like, oh no, I need to grow really, really fast because I'm like so short. I need to reach up to the sky and get that sun. So that's kind of negating that. When you keep it at 3 inches, it grows much slower. When you cut it really, really short, it's going to be growing back a lot quicker. So you're going to have to be mowing more frequently. And again, if you have a gas mower, that's just going to be adding more pollution into the atmosphere as well. Hand pulling dandelions and weeds, it's a great way to get out into the garden and prevent spraying all those chemicals on your yard, especially if you have pets or kids running around the yard. You don't want them ingesting that or having that on their clothes too. This homeowner washes their car on their lawn, takes care of their car, make sure that there's not oil leaking or any other coolant free, like anything like that coming out of the car. So regular car maintenance. They have also disconnected their downspouts and directed it right onto their lawn. And the other downspout that was originally going just across their driveway is now being captured by a rain barrel, which is a great way to hold on to that storm water while it's raining, preventing some of that water from getting into the storm drains. And it's also great to just have some free water on hand for washing your car or watering your plants in your gardens. You can add insect hotels, bird houses, or bird feeders to help support the wildlife around you. Say this person has some leaves in their yard in the fall, but rather than raking them up into bags, they just use their mower to mulch it into the lawn. That is a great alternative to bagging it up. because in nature, those leaves would stay there anyway and break down naturally. They have a lot of wonderful nutrients in them already. So that negates the need for something like fertilizers too. So if you mulch it right into the ground, those nutrients are getting recycled right back there on your lawn. Excuse me. This resident shovels the snow as best they can before they add down some salt. And when they're done melting all the ice, they sweep up the excess salt to use it for later, or just it keeps it out of those storm drains as well. This person has a pollinator garden with native plant cultivars. They take their household hazardous waste to their local drop-off rather than, pouring it down the sink or the storm drain. We don't want to do that. They have some little motion detection lights at night. So when they're walking into their home from their car, they have some lights, but then they go off to help the wildlife that is flying around at night as well. And they've also reduced some of their hard surfaces. So rather than a big paved patio up to their home, they just have like some smaller little stepping stones and just kind of reducing those hard surfaces. So some positives and negatives. We are definitely managing stormwater much better on this landscape. We are having plants and things for wildlife. We're making sure that we're trying to manage all of the pollution that we might have from keeping it out of the storm drains. But some negatives would be something like the native cultivars. So those are also common in some of our larger box stores, like your Home Depot, your Lowe's. You can find something like a purple cone flower there, but they might not be as native as you could get. Some of the native cultivars have been genetically modified, sometimes for a different flower color or a different bloom. Maybe it's a little bit bigger. So those can be really beautiful, but the benefit to wildlife and pollinators is much less because native pollinators need native plants. That is what they have evolved to be able to use. Some of the native cultivars, when they are modified for something like color or the bloom size, can also change the anatomy of the plant and either make it inaccessible to those plant or to those insects that would normally use it, or even reducing the amount of pollen that might be in there. So if you have like a larger flower, maybe the center is a little bit smaller. So you never know with that. So we highly encourage the most native ones that you can find. Yeah, so otherwise they're doing much better than that level 1 yard, but I think we could do even better. So let's see our next yard. So this is our level 100 yard. This is what we're aiming for if we want to help support all the wildlife around us, keep our Rouge River safe, and keep our pets and family safe and healthy. So this yard is simulating nature in the best way possible. So WWND, what would nature do? So sometimes that's maybe doing a little bit less, not spraying, not fertilizing, kind of being a little lazy in a sense. Nature doesn't have a maid to clean up after it. So just kind of think about that before you do something out in your yard. So this homeowner is not using any fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, or insecticides. They replaced some of their grass lawn with a diverse pollinator garden with deep-rooted native plants. They're capturing stormwater in a rain barrel and having that go into this native plant garden as a rain garden. Um, in the fall, they're leaving plant stems for overwintering insects. You can see on there too, there's an old tree stump. Insects love that. That is a wonderful home for a lot of wildlife as well. So again, that's kind of like the lazy thing. Like you might want to pull out that dead tree stump, but what happens if you just leave it there? Is it really causing too much harm? Guess that's up to you to decide, but it will definitely be used by wildlife if you leave it. We are also planting more native trees, shrubs, and flowers. Instead of a bird feeder like you might have at home, native plants are nature's bird feeder. So I've seen dark-eyed juncos at my flower garden, eating the little seed heads. Goldfinches love coneflower seeds. So before you cut them down in the fall, if you leave them over winter, it's wonderful food for those birds. Leaving the leaves in the fall, that combined with leaving your plant stems is a great way to help support our wonderful native pollinators. Not only does it give shelter for those insects, a lot of insects overwinter in leaf litter. Their cocoons are kind of camouflaged to look like leaves. You know, so you might not see them necessarily, but they're definitely there. And as well as a lot of insects using the hollow plant stems overwintering as well. What I like to do on my yard for leaving the leaves, I like to rake them just directly into my garden. Again, those leaves are going to break down naturally and give those nutrients back to the plants. It's home for all of those insects. I'll even see the birds kind of looking around in the leaves for some of those overwintering insects too, to give them food. Or leaving the leaves could just look like raking it all into one pile or just kind of leaving them scattered. That is definitely up to you as well. This resident is shoveling snow first and then using a limited amount of salt or salt alternatives. There's been a lot of different kind of DIY salt alternatives out there, like beet juice. Some people just sprinkle down some sand or some cat litter just for traction, especially on icy spots. And then sweeping that up when you're all done, keeping that out of the storm drains again. Using dye-free natural mulch, potentially combined with non-glossy newspaper or cardboard. That is a great thing for any of your garden beds. The newspaper and the cardboard, break down naturally again. And we like to suggest dye-free mulch. Some people really like the colored mulch just for the look, the red, brown, or black mulch. But again, those dyes can also make their way down the storm drain as well. And some of them are actually treated with chemicals, which can also be harmful to plants. So the most natural wood chips that you can find are highly suggested if you're going for a level 100 yard. They are keeping it dark for birds and insects. We also have a little bat on there too. Of course, bats are nocturnal. They're eating all the nasty mosquitoes out there. So if you hate mosquitoes, keep it dark and maybe even add in a bat house to help support those guys. Having a compost bin or compost pile, that helps keep a lot of your food waste out of our trash bins, reducing carbon emissions by having to go pick that up regularly. And again, it's just being able to recycle all of those natural nutrients. And at the end, you have wonderful, beautiful compost, what they call gardener or farmer's gold. You can share that with friends or family, put that back in your own gardens. It is really wonderful. And again, it's one of those kind of lazier things, I guess. You just kind of throw it in a bin. Those bins, you just want to make sure that you keep your browns and greens balanced. There's lots of great resources out there about how to properly maintain a compost pile or compost bin. Let's see, they're also removing a lot of impervious pavements, so some of those hard surfaces. In this example here, they reduced their driveway to just 2 little strips, or maybe they have a patio in the back that they have permeable pavers. So permeable pavers are ones that allow water to soak in. So when it's raining, it's going right through, right where it lands, rather than running off. They're keeping their nearby storm drains clean to prevent flooding on their streets, just keeping all that nasty stuff out of there. And then if you live by any waterways, rivers, lakes, streams, anything like that, leaving at least a 25-foot buffer of natural space is highly recommended. Again, it helps kind of capture anything that might be coming off your lawn and kind of just gives the river or waterway some breathing room. So when we do get those heavy storms, it can be able to kind of flood a little bit and not disturb your more manicured lawn, perhaps. And again, just in this picture, you can see all the wildlife and things that you're supporting. Dead stumps, you get lots of mushrooms. I have a dead stump in my backyard. A couple years ago, I got a really cool puff mushroom. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it. A puffball mushroom. And I wish I knew ahead of time that it is edible, because I definitely would have harvested that. It looks really delicious. So I'm hoping the mushrooms maybe come back this year. So foraging has definitely been something I've been seeing a lot more of. Even things like dandelions you can eat. There are a lot of things that grow in our yard that you can eat if you don't spray any chemicals on it. I had a wonderful community member that made us some delicious dandelion jam last year too, and it was fantastic. So it is your choice to choose your kind of yard. You could either go with the conventional landscaping, or you can unlock the potential of your yard with a sustainable landscape. On our conventional landscaping side, we have photos of just a monoculture, Kentucky bluegrass, typical lawn. The photo on the left is showing a man spreading some fertilizer, and he is right on the waterway, kind of symbolizing where that fertilizer ends up when you put it on your yard. And the photo on the right is a photo of one of our residential homes 2 years ago in Detroit that had major flooding in between 2 homes that were causing some major issues. And on our sustainable, healthy landscape side, the photo in the middle is showing a beautiful native garden. You could be very traditional and make it look very formal still. This one just has 3 plants, purple coneflower on the top with the purple flowers, these butterfly milkweed, the beautiful orange flower, and then kind of lined with a shorter shrub. I believe in this one it is nodding wild onion, but you can use different sedges and grasses to give that same effect. The photo on the left there shows a beautiful monarch butterfly on our swamp milkweed. If you want to help support monarchs, they really need milkweed plants. So swamp milkweed, pokeweed, or I'm sorry, poke milkweed, butterfly weed. That is what they lay their eggs on, and that's what their caterpillars need to be munching on when they hatch. So if we want butterflies, We have to be able to support their eggs and their little caterpillars as well. And the photo on the right there is showing a master rain gardener's rain garden in action. It's planted with a variety of native plants, and you can see that it is holding and managing that rainwater right on site. So I'm going to give you all a challenge for this year. This is our Healthy Yard Year Challenge. So since it is spring, we are there, luckily. So the spring challenge is to forego yard chemicals. So whatever you think you can, forego this year, whether it be fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, all the things that we kind of talked about today. The summer, we want you to plant a Michigan native plant in your yard and see what comes around to its blooms. For fall, we encourage you to leave the leaves for all those overwintering insects. And in the winter, we want you to salt smart. So our photos here on the left, for spring, we have a little bunny munching on some dandelions. So of course, if you're spraying your dandelions, that could harm the cute little critters like our bunnies that are munching on them. The photo under that is someone planting a native plant in a garden. For the fall, we have a picture of our beautiful leaf litter. And the winter photo shows just one mug full of salt. That's all you need for most walkways. And again, sweeping that up when you're done can really go a long way. So your yard is part of the ecosystem, and we want you to think about your neighbors in nature. So we have a variety of beautiful wildlife that can be in our backyards and our Rouge River watershed. Just to name a few, up at the top, we have our beautiful rainbow darter that really needs healthy, clean water to survive. We have our pets. We have bees, birds. We have a family canoeing on the Rouge River. We want to keep the Rouge River clean and healthy for us to be able to recreate and fish in. We have some salamanders, frogs, and other amphibians, snakes, garter snakes, stoneflies, damselflies, even our cute little squirrel friends. We all need each other to have a healthy environment that we can all survive and thrive in. So with that, if you're looking to make that next step for a healthier, leveled up yard, we have our spring sale where we have pre-orders for rain barrels, composters, and a variety of native plants, either single species flats or full rain garden kits that are perfect for any site on your yard. You can go to therouge.org/store to see all of our items, our pickup sale, and we're also going to have a same-day plant sale on May 18th from noon to 4. So if you're looking for some beautiful native plants, definitely feel free to stop by. That's going to be at the Canton DPW. And if you want to learn more in depth about rain gardens specifically, we encourage you to join us this upcoming Monday on Earth Day for our Southfield Rain Gardens 101. It is going to be in person in Southfield at the Southfield Civic Center, or you can also join virtually as well. And Jaclyn is going to be putting in some of those links as well for some of these events and at the Rouge store. And thank you for your participation. We are also going to send a link for a follow-up survey. We would love your feedback. And if you fill out that survey, once you submit it, you will get a code for 5% off your Rouge store order. That is good through April 29th. So you don't have to fill it out right away, but we encourage you to while it's still fresh in your mind. And in addition to that, if you'd like to become a Friends of the Rouge member, members get a 10% off discount code from the Rouge store and other benefits. But we'd also really love for you to fill out that survey so we know how we did today and see what you learned. So you have the control. So let's make healthy landscapes for all of us to enjoy. Thank you for making the Rouge River clean and healthier for all. Again, go to therouge.org to learn more about Friends of the Rouge, our upcoming events, and other things that you can do on your home and yard for all. Some other fun Earth Day events. Today is kind of kicking off all of our Earth Day events list. Tomorrow, if you don't have any plans, definitely come out to our headquarters in downtown Plymouth at the at Park, which stands for the Plymouth Arts and Recreation Complex. We are going to be having our first annual Earth Day extravaganza. It is Earth Day in the park. We are going to have food, live music and performances, book readings, raffles. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so much fun. We would love to have you out there to celebrate Earth Day with us. And you can come see our beautiful 20+ rain gardens. If you'd like to help volunteer in those rain gardens, we have a link for you to register to volunteer for those as well. As I also mentioned earlier, we're going to have folks out for the bug hunt tomorrow as well. Unfortunately, it is too late to sign up for that one, but we do also have a fall bug hunt if you're interested in that. I think that's so much fun to go out and see what's kind of living in the river. And we will also be holding a Earth Day cleanup at Fort Street Bridge Park in Detroit. If you're down there, we'd love to have you at that as well. So with that, we'll kind of move into some of the questions that we've gotten along the way. Again, definitely feel free to reach out to me. My email is there on the screen. It's jheikila, HEIKKILA @therouge.org. And again, please fill out that survey so you can get that discount code for our Rouge store. So let's see. Okay, wonderful. Sounds like there's lots of interest of where to buy plants. Of course, I'll be a little selfish and tell you to go through the Rouge store first and help Friends of the Rouge through our spring sale. There are a variety of native plant kits. There's a shade kit, a rain garden kit that can, adapt to those wet conditions. We also have just a general pollinator kit for all of our favorite native plants that pollinators love. And there is also a grass kit too. So everyone always thinks about the beautiful perennial flowers, but grasses and sedges are also really important for a lot of our pollinators. Let's see, what else? Linda asks, what are some questions to ask a prospective lawn care company about fertilizers? Is there any weed prevent? Is there any weed prevent that is okay? So there are some lawn care companies out there that are kind of going to more organic products. Again, with the fertilizers, asking them if they use a phosphorus-free fertilizer, I would highly suggest. There are some weed preventions that are okay. Let's see. Yeah, I would just, see what kind of products they're using. If it's just kind of a one and done herbicide that's going to kill your weeds, that can also be harmful to any other plant that might come in contact with it. So there is some bee-friendly weed killer sprays. I've made some in the past. Some organizations have some different recipes online. It is a mix of vinegar, just a dab of dish soap, and some salt. And I spray that on my weeds in my uh, driveway, in my walkway, and that really helps kill the weeds as well. Just make sure you're keeping it off of anything that you don't want it to be harmed, especially if you're spraying around trees. Um, Linda also asked, is there anything bad about buried downspouts? So if you have a buried downspout and it's going, if it's like discharging onto a grassy lawn or a rain garden, that's totally fine. Buried downspouts can be a challenge to maintain over time, especially if you have large trees. Some leaves can get in there and kind of clog that up as well. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're burying downspouts. We really just want to be disconnecting downspouts if it's going straight into a pipe by your home, because that means it's going directly to our storm drains or our sewer system. Someone else asked, HOA requires lights to be on from sunset to sunrise. Motion activated, not accept thoughts. Yeah, HOAs are definitely a different breed. They definitely have a lot of the traditional landscape mindsets. So what I would encourage anyone that's in a HOA or is connected with a HOA is just education, really, educating them about the importance of those things. I know that can be a little bit tricky because they usually have lights on for safety purposes. So maybe if they can't compromise on that, maybe pushing for something else like a no mow may. I know some people have some really strong opinions on that too, but just kind of they can reach out to Friends of the Rouge or another watershed organization. We'd be happy to share resources with them about how they can improve the HOA for wildlife. But I really think that the HOA perspective, they really need to hear from those in the HOA. So be writing to those on the board, or if you are an HOA board member, sharing those resources with others is what I would suggest. That's a great question. Linda also asks, where can I buy native shrubs? I see a lot of flowers and grasses, but I feel like I don't see a lot of shrubs. Perennial flowers are usually the easiest for most growers to grow. That's probably why we see the most of them, which is great. There is a good number of nearby nurseries that sell shrubs. One a little bit farther away is Wild Type. They usually provide a lot of trees and shrubs and plants to other nurseries. They have a couple public sale days. I know the Oakland County Conservation District in early spring usually does a tree and shrub sale as well. So definitely check with your local county folks and see if they have any upcoming sales. And one nearby to us, Michiganenses. Adam there has just moved over to Grease Greenhouse in Plymouth. He is getting up his little native plant area right now, and I believe he is planning on providing not only perennials, but trying to get some shrubs in there as well. Yes, because I know those definitely can be a little bit harder to find. So you definitely feel free to reach out to us as well. We have a whole list of different plant providers that we'd be happy to share with you. Let's see. How do you protect your native plants from deers, bunnies, eating them entirely? Sounds like Jaclyn maybe gave a good answer there. There are some plants, we have a list of more deer resistant plants, but really deer will try to eat anything. So sometimes with trees, you can put some like netting over that so they're not gonna munch down to the trunk. Um, there are some, I think, natural sprays you can put around there. Um, but one thing that we always say is if something's not eating your plants, then it's not a part of the ecosystem, right? So kind of making that compromise of, okay, what can we, share with the wildlife and what is just ours? So like if you have a vegetable garden, kind of putting some netting or some kind of barrier around that, but also having some nearby native plants for them to use. Um, let's see, what else? Linda, you have so many great questions. This is awesome. We are going to try to get to all of them. I know we are running a little bit over. So I did just want to thank everyone again for coming to this webinar. I really hope you learned something new. I hope that you take our survey and let us know what you plan on doing this upcoming year. And again, please reach out to us at any time. With any of these wonderful questions. My email again there is on the screen. I am more than happy to help answer any questions or give you any information about other programs that you can learn more. Linda, your question about cedar mulch that is not dyed, is that okay? Yes, it definitely is. You definitely want to look for the dye-free mulch. I use cedar mulch in my garden. I do go to Home Depot and buy like the no float mulch for my rain garden, so all the mulch isn't, just going away in the first rain. Sometimes it does depend on what plants you have in there. Sometimes cedar mulch has like a different pH. So that might be, that could affect your soil and your plants. But I haven't heard of anyone having any troubles with the cedar mulch. Let's see. Linda also asked any advice for growing under walnut trees. Walnut trees tend to kill plants below, I believe. Yes, I have also heard that about walnut trees. I believe there are some great resources out there. I don't know anything off the top of my head, but I would definitely look at MSU Extension. They have so many great resources. You could be there for days reading everything. So I definitely check there, or feel free to send us a quick email about that and we can help you find some resources for that stuff. Let's see, are there any good ones? Oh, was it an answered one? Let's see. Okay. Okay, so Gary asked, do berry downspouts need mosquito control? So mosquitoes need open, stagnant water for several days to be able to lay their eggs. So it is something we definitely consider for our rain barrels. Our rain barrels have a really small mesh netting that doesn't allow the mosquitoes to get in there. There are also natural mosquito dunks that are made that you could put in your rain barrel that also helps prevent those mosquito eggs from forming. Our rain gardens, we definitely will talk more in depth about rain gardens at our Rain Gardens 101. But all of our gardens, we size appropriately for the amount of water that it's receiving and make sure that all that water is able to drain within 48 hours to also prevent mosquitoes. Buried downspouts, if there's no open water for those downspouts, I don't think that there should be any issues with mosquitoes. But definitely keep an eye on that. If you have any cooling water like in downspouts, it might just not be graded correctly. You want to make sure that it's angled appropriately away from the house and not potentially holding water inside that pipe. But typically they like open water, so I wouldn't see them maybe flying into a downspout that might have water in it. I hope that answers Gary's question there. That is a great question. So they asked about landscape fabric and the combination with mulching. We don't like using landscape fabric. It breaks down. If you've ever tried to remove landscape fabric, no, it just kind of shreds into a million pieces. So kind of with that, those pieces can not only end up in your garden, but down the storm drains as well. So that's something that's like made of plastic or not natural fibers that we want to try to avoid. So I would recommend removing any landscape fabric that you might have and just allowing for a natural barrier. You can lay down wood chips right onto your dirt. Or if you have like grass that you're trying to kill off or anything like that in garden beds. We will sometimes use, again, the cardboard. Cardboard's nice and thick. It's going to kill off that lawn grass if you're trying to make a garden area. And again, that breaks down naturally. An alternative to the landscape fabric is non-glossy newspaper. We use that especially around our rain garden borders to help kind of keep the grass out, kind of kill any of the grass that might be in that berm. And then we put mulch on top of that in a good layer, about 3 inches. That helps suppress any little weeds, seedlings that might be in there. I definitely still get dandelions in my rain garden, but it's a lot easier to try to maintain. So yes, I hope that answers that question about landscape fabric. Same with like the rubber mulch. That is not really good for your plants or our watershed. So definitely go with the dye-free natural mulch if you can. And yeah, just a quick little aside around my dead tree stump in the back. Instead of landscape fabric, the previous owners of my home put a tarp down. So I am trying to remove a tarp in very small pieces as well. So just like the other plastics that break down into small pieces, that stuff can be a real nightmare when you're trying to get it out of your garden. So if you can avoid it, I would encourage that. Any other major questions? Lisa? Lise, yes. How can you keep black-eyed Susans and purple coneflowers healthy? Those are two great options of native plants. Those are some of our most used plants in rain gardens and our native plantings. And they're definitely more durable than a lot of other plants that we have in our gardens. So I don't know if there's anything you can really do to help keep them healthy. Do you have something to add, Jaclyn? No. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, like the white powdery mildew. So if you're getting some like white powdery mildew on some of your plants, they may not be getting enough sunlight, and they might be like holding excess moisture on their leaves. Um, I know another native that happens commonly on is bee balm. It has like some of those spots. I have that in my garden. It is in a really sunny spot too, and it still gets that. But I haven't seen it spread to any of my other flowers. And the look doesn't really bother me too much. Let's see. Um, hmm. Lisa, that's a great question. I'd love to see some photos if you'd like to email them to me. I have some other flower experts that might have some good DIY or um, healthy ways to help those black-eyed Susans and purple cone flowers. But that is a great question. So thank you for asking it. I hope I answered it to the best of my abilities today, but if I didn't, definitely feel free to follow up with me and I can give a better answer. Any other questions before we wrap up today? Again, thank you all so much for participating and joining this wonderful webinar. I hope you learned something new. I hope you follow up and come out to a Friends of the Rouge event or become a Friends of the Rouge member. Again, we'll be out here at the Plymouth Arts and Recreation Complex tomorrow. Please stop by at any time. Thank you all so much again. Thank you for improving your yards for yourself, your family, and the Rouge River watershed.